Well, the government has shaken up the election campaign with a late plot twist, a tax cut for all. That's one side of the ledger. The other is record debt and deficits for the next decade. Joining us live from Canberra now is the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. Treasurer, good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for your time. A cup of coffee for all. Is that how much a vote costs in 2025?
Well, we're topping up the tax cuts because this is one of the effective ways that we can help with the cost of living, but not the only way. The budget's got cost of living help across the board. Tax cuts for every taxpayer, energy rebates, cheaper medicines, cutting student debt, strengthening Medicare. This is all about recognising that we've made a lot of progress together as Australians on inflation, but people are still under pressure, and the budget is designed to alleviate some of that pressure. Now, in isolation, these tax cuts are relatively modest, but in combination, the 3 rounds of tax cuts mean that the average tax cut is about $50 a week, and that's to help people with the cost of living.
Was it also an attempt at deflection, though? A hope that folks will think about the small tax cut and not the increases to energy bills and insurance premiums?
Oh, of course, we don't see it that way. You know, what we're doing here is we're topping up the tax cuts in a responsible way so that every Australian taxpayer gets a tax cut. And you've asked me a couple of political questions now, and so let me tell you what it means for the political contest as we get closer to the election. The election's going to be a very simple choice now between Labor cutting taxes to help with the cost of living versus Peter Dutton, who's got secret cuts which will make Australians worse off. Peter Dutton wants to cut everything except people's income taxes, and that will be a key issue in the election.
That's the line this morning?
That's the reality after Angus Taylor's brain explosion last night on tax. You know, at a time where people need and deserve some extra cost of living help and they're getting it from Labor, it beggars belief, frankly, that after all of the coalition's bleating about lower taxes, they want taxes to be higher. They want Australians to be worse off. And that's the consequence of Angus Taylor's brain explosion last night.
How is this debt going to be paid down, though? NDIS is a massive weight. Interest payments on $1 trillion in debt. With short-term cash handouts, aren't you adding to long-term problems for our kids?
Well, Pete, we've actually got the debt down in the budget this year. It's $177 billion lower.
It's still going to top $1 trillion next year, though.
That's too easily dismissed. It was going to be already $1 trillion well by now under our predecessors. That's what we inherited, and we've got the debt down, and that means we're saving Australians debt interest costs. You asked me about the NDIS and some of these structural issues. The budget last night showed that we are making really good progress getting spending on the NDIS to more sustainable levels. What we've done in aged care and NDIS and interest costs is making a structural difference to the budget. And so I think questions like that one really do ignore and dismiss and diminish the fact that we have engineered the biggest improvement in the budget in a single parliamentary term ever in dollar terms. We have got the Liberal debt down. That is saving Australians in debt interest. And we've been able to do that in a way that makes room for strengthening Medicare, providing cost of living help and building Australia's future.
OK. On inflation, will this hurt our chances at all of getting another rate cut this year that would help more than a cup of coffee?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to give free advice to the Independent Reserve Bank. Obviously, I spoke with the Reserve Bank Governor before I announced the budget. I ran her through the key initiatives in the budget, as I have done on earlier occasions as well. But they'll take that decision independently. What the budget says about inflation is the Treasury now expects inflation to be sustainably lower sooner. They've brought forward their forecast for when inflation is sustainably within the Reserve Bank's target band. That's a very good thing. And so the budget we handed down last night with all of this cost of living help is consistent with inflation coming down faster and sooner.